Words on the mic we fly, voices rising to the sky, stories weaving through the night, tune in for the ride. Thoughts and dreams unfold, new ideas taking hold, words that touch the soul, join us on this road, on every
はい、おはようございます。こんにちは、こんばんはの方もいると思いますが、独り言のポッドキャストの時間でございます。ですね、最近の様子を先に語ろうかなと思ったんですけど、いかがですか。10月入りましたよね。一応会社員やってるとですね、上期下期っていう感じで呼ぶと、下期のスタートが10月ですね。4月始まりの会社ですよね、大体。はい。でそういう意味ではですね、もう半年終わっちゃったんだなって感じがしていて、今年の成果の半分が何だったんだろうかなんて振り返る季節だったりはするんですね。でもそれはそれで置いといて、半年経ったってことで、また新しい半年、下期3月末に向けてですね、突っ走っていこうっていうのが、サラリーマン的にやってることかななんて思ってはいます。はい。そんな感じのことをですね、考えながらなんですが、今日はちょっとネタといいますか、思考を変えまして、iPhone 買い替えた話をね、すればよかったんですけど、それはまたそのうちというか、別にそんな面白い話でもないかなって感じがするんで、AI の話でいくと、最近話題の Google のNotebookLLM があると思うんですよね。で、ちょっと今回は趣向を変えましてですね、その NotebookLLM でポッドキャスト的に喋ってくれる機能があるんで、それで喋ってもらった内容、喋ってもらってる内容、中身については、私がAI と一緒にですね、書いたいくつかのアイデアがあるんで、その内容について喋ってくれてるというようなノートを作ったんで、そちらの内容をこれから聞いていただくという感じです。残念ながら英語なんですけど、でまた私これ撮ったやつを、文字起こしして今度は日本語にして記事化するっていうのができるかなってところがちょっと試してみたくてですね、このハイブリッドな感じでやってみたいなと思いますので、では、また最後後半に出てくるかなと思いますけども、お楽しみください。
World.
Yeah, it's a pretty hot topic these days, right?
Absolutely. And we found some super interesting sources for this deep dive.
Oh, yeah? Like what?
We're even tapping into the global conversation. Got excerpts from a Japanese book on AI in business.
Wow, go international. I like it.
Got to get that global perspective.
Yeah.
And then we've got this research paper all about DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, and how they could change the game for creative types.
DAOs, now those are fascinating. Aren't those still kind of in the early stages, though?
They are, but that's what makes them so exciting, right?
Yeah.
So much potential. And get this, we even have the peer review of that paper, so we're going to see what the critics think, too.
That's awesome, like getting a behind-the-scenes look at the academic debate.
Exactly. Okay, so first up, this Japanese book, the title translates to, get ready for it, Corporate Transformation in the Age of AI Utilization, Creating the Future with Knowledge Practice Enlightenment.
Whoa, that's a mouthful.
Right. But catchy? No. Okay, but seriously, it makes a really important point right off the bat. AI isn't just some optional upgrade anymore. This book argues it's totally changing how businesses work, like fundamentally.
Yeah, and I think that's especially true in creative fields, wouldn't you say?
100%. It's not just about like slapping a chatbot on your website and calling it a day.
No, not at all. This book digs into what they call the 4 walls that can hold a business back from really embracing AI.
4 walls, I like that. Okay, break it down for me. What are those walls?
So wall number 1 is data. You need the right data, the good stuff, to train these AI systems to actually be useful.
Makes sense. Garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly. Then you've got wall number 2, tech. You need the infrastructure, the computing power and all that to actually make it all work.
Okay, that's the tech side of things. What about the human element? Surely that's got to be a factor too, right?
Absolutely. That's where the third wall comes in. Organizational structure. Is the company, the team, actually ready for this kind of change? Is there a culture that embraces innovation, experimentation, that kind of thing?
It's like setting the stage for AI to thrive, making sure the environment is right.
Exactly. And then, last but definitely not least, you've got the fourth wall, ethics. Thinking about the moral implications of AI, like bias in algorithms right from the start.
Right, because AI can't be ethical if the humans designing it aren't thinking about those things. It's like building a house, right? You need a strong foundation on all sides.
Perfect analogy.
But you know what I find really interesting about this book? It's this concept of, I'm going to try to say this right, Chishugo, knowledge, practice, enlightenment.
Yeah, it's a core concept in a lot of Japanese philosophy, actually.
Sounds pretty deep, right? So how does it relate to AI?
Well, this is where that human element we were talking about comes in. It's about this idea that AI shouldn't be about replacing humans, but about helping us reach this higher level of understanding and capability, like using AI as a tool to push ourselves further.
So it's not about robots taking over. It's about AI helping us become more enlightened.
Exactly. Think of it as a journey, a collaboration between humans and AI.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but I need a little more than just a cool-sounding phrase. Give me an example. How would this Chishugo thing actually play out in a business, like in the real world?
Okay, let's say you're a clothing designer. Chi, which represents knowledge, could be like using AI to analyze fashion trends, but not just the obvious stuff.
Like what's hot on Instagram right now?
Right, but going deeper than that, like using AI to uncover those hidden patterns in data to figure out what customers might want next season, maybe even before they know it themselves.
Wow, so like AI is your trend-spotting sidekick. I like it.
Yeah.
What about Shu, practice? Where does that fit in?
So Shu is all about using AI to help you get better at what you do, to refine your skills. Imagine personalized AI-powered training programs that adapt to your strengths and weaknesses as a designer.
So it's like having a personalized mentor, but it's AI. That's pretty cool. Okay, so we've got Chi, knowledge, we've got Shu, practice. Bring on the Go, the enlightenment. What's that all about?
Go is about reaching that next level of creative problem solving, thinking beyond the obvious. So instead of getting bogged down in the weeds, those tedious data-heavy tasks, AI can handle all of that. And that frees you up to focus on the big picture, the why behind the what. Those aha moments that come from true collaboration and deep thinking.
Wow, so it's like AI is handling all the grunt work, leaving you to explore the really innovative, impactful side of your work.
Exactly. And that's a concept that you can apply not just to business, but to any creative field, really.
Okay, so remember those DAOs we were talking about? That's where things get really interesting. Our next source really dives deep into how DAOs could be huge for creatives, like actually change the game.
Yeah, DAOs have the potential to completely flip the script. Imagine this. Creative projects. But instead of relying on big corporations or institutions, they're funded and governed by this decentralized network like a community, all connected through this transparent system, all on the blockchain. That's the power of DAOs.
Like the ultimate collab, right? But how does it actually work, like in the real world?
Well, this paper focuses on 3 main industries: music, publishing, and gaming. And get this, they break it all down with specific models for how DAOs could actually function in each industry.
Okay, so let's start with music. I mean, we all know how hard it is for musicians to get their music out there, especially with the grip that, like, record labels often have on the industry.
For sure, it's tough out there for independent musicians.
Yep.
So the paper proposes this idea of a decentralized labeled BAO, basically a DAO that operates like a record label would. Imagine a platform where fans can directly support artists they love. They could even invest in a specific project, like an album or a tour, directly.
That's cool. So it's like crowdfunding, but on a much bigger, more organized scale.
Exactly. No more relying solely on big labels to decide who gets funding and who doesn't. Fans have the power.
I like it. But what about the artists themselves? How do we make sure they're actually getting a fair deal? You always hear those horror stories about musicians getting screwed over when it comes to royalties and stuff.
And that's where the beauty of blockchain comes in. With a DAO, every transaction, every stream, every download, it's all recorded, all transparent, can't be messed with. So artists could actually receive royalties directly from their fans, cut out the middleman and those huge fees.
That's awesome. Talk about a game changer.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got music covered. What about the publishing world? How could DAOs shake things up for authors and readers?
Think about it. What if, instead of pitching your manuscript to a bunch of publishing houses hoping someone picks it up, what if you could submit your work directly to a DAO made up of readers and fellow writers?
So like a community-driven publishing house. That's an interesting idea.
Right. And it wouldn't just be about getting your book funded either. The DAO could handle everything. Editing, marketing, distribution, the whole 9 yards. And this paper gets really into the nitty-gritty, even talking about this idea of quadratic voting within a DAO to make sure everyone has a say, but it's balanced.
Quadratic voting. Okay, now you're just using big words to sound smart. Break it down for me.
It's actually pretty simple. It's a voting system that basically gives more weight to individual voters compared to like big time investors who might have a ton of money in the DAO. It prevents any one person or group from having too much control.
So it's more about the community's genuine interest in a project rather than like who has the most money to throw around. I like it. It's all about democratizing creativity, right?
Exactly. And it gets even cooler when you think about the potential for things like collaborative writing projects where authors from all over the world can come together, contribute to a shared story, and then because it's a DAO, they all get their fair share of the profits.
Okay, that is really cool. But we've got one more industry to cover, gaming. Now, that's a world that's already pretty comfortable with digital platforms and new tech. But what could DAOs bring to the gaming world?
Think about how games are developed now, right? Usually it's these big studios with tons of employees, but with a DAO, imagine a more decentralized structure where you've got developers, designers, artists, even players themselves all contributing to a game.
Wait, hold on. You're saying that even players could have a voice in how a game is made?
Absolutely. It could be a really cool feedback loop, right? The paper suggests this model where everyone involved in the DAO earns rewards based on their contributions, whether they're writing code, designing levels, creating art, or even just providing feedback during development. It's like a true collaboration between the creators and the community.
That's like taking those early access models that a lot of games have now to a whole new level. Players become stakeholders in the game's success. It sounds incredible, but I have to imagine there must be some challenges with trying to make something as radical as DAOs a reality, right?
Yeah, for sure. There are always challenges, right? It can't be that easy. I mean, nothing ever is it? That's where our last source comes in. We've got that peer review of the DAO research paper. It's like getting a second opinion from like a real expert in the field,
Yeah.
someone who can point out the stuff the researchers might have missed. And this wasn't just some random reviewer either. They've got serious credentials. They're an expert in both blockchain technology and the intellectual property law. So they're not just talking theory here. They know the real-world implications.
Okay, so what'd they think? Were they totally on board with the whole DAO thing, or did they think it was like a pipe dream?
Honestly, they actually saw a lot of potential, especially for creative industries. But they weren't afraid to, bring up the challenges, like actually making this stuff work in the real world.
Okay, so what kind of challenges are we talking about? Lay it on me.
Well, one of the big ones, legal stuff. DAOs are decentralized by their very nature, right? And that doesn't really fit in with the current laws and regulations. Those are all designed for more traditional organizations.
Right. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Exactly. And then there's the whole tech side of things too. Like, how do you make sure these platforms are secure? And can they actually handle it when they start growing really fast?
Those are some pretty big hurdles.
Yeah.
Did the paper offer any solutions?
They did, and that's what I think makes this research so interesting. They suggest taking a phased approach. Basically, start small with pilot projects in those creative industries we were talking about.
So kind of like dipping your toes in the water before jumping in headfirst.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about testing things out, working out the kinks, and building trust gradually, proving that this stuff actually works.
Start small, learn as you go, then scale up. Makes sense to me.
Yep. And they also talk about how important it is to establish clear legal frameworks for DAOs. That's something governments all over the world are just starting to wrap their heads around. It's going to be an ongoing thing for sure.
Totally. So we've covered a lot today, from Japanese business philosophy to like the nuts and bolts of how DAOs could actually work. It's a lot to digest. But for you listening out there, what's the big takeaway?
I think it boils down to this. How we fund creative work, even just how we experience it. It's all about to change in a big way. AI is a huge part of that, and DAOs could be the key to unlocking a whole new world of possibilities.
It's about putting the power back in the hands of creators.
Right.
And making the whole system more transparent and fair.
Exactly. Now, we're not saying we know exactly what the future holds. Maybe DAOs are the answer. Maybe something even cooler comes along. But that's the exciting part. We're in uncharted territory here. The future of creativity is being written right now.
And that's what we want you to think about. If you could design a DAO for something you're passionate about, what would it look like? What problems would it solve? What would make it unique? Let those ideas simmer. You never know. You might just stumble onto the next big thing. Until next time, keep those creative sparks flying, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.
はい。そんな感じで聞いていただい たのがですね、話というか論文的な感じに書いてたものが2つあって、1つがですね AI 活用した知と習と語、知識の知と習は習得するっていう感じのところ、それから悟るっていう意味での語ですね。はい、この3つにまとめた形のところで、考えていいんじゃないのかなみたいな風に考えた論文書きかけですけどね。これとあとはですね AI 時代に対応した感じのリーダーシップみたいなことを書いた内容なんですよね、それはね。でもう一個はうまく動かすときにDAO って一生懸命言ってたと思うんですけど、ああいうのを活用できるんじゃないのか、そういう考え方を語った論文、別のモデルの話をしているのがあるんですけど、その2つをミックスした形で今回、AI 同士でポッドキャストをしてくれているという感じの構成になっております。ちょっとこれをですねうまく、文字起こしして日本語にして文章になるのかなっていうのを試してみる感じのポッドキャストになりました。はい、よろしければ、フォローしていただけると、またこんな感じの面白い実験をしながらですね、番組を作っていければと思っております。感想などコメントいただけたらまた嬉しいです。それではまた。